So, hello and welcome to Naranja Asteroide. Here we are with a very, very special guest, Ian Altozar. It's Altozar or Altozar?
It's both are, I think, fine, and altos are, in English it's a weird name anyway, so it's an Estonian, pretty much an Estonian name, so altos are is good.
Okay, so Ian Altozar, thank you for being here with us to share your knowledge and to talk about a very interesting topic. But before that, I want to introduce Ian. Ian is the Freedom Astrologer. That's how you can find it on YouTube and on social media. He's a mystic, a book author, a poet, a podcast host, and an inspired astrologer who helps people break free from their own shadows and fears. That's why you're called the Freedom Astrologer, I guess.
Exactly.
So, and you are also hosting the Cosmic Adults podcast. Can you tell us a little bit about that podcast?
Yes, we are doing this project, and we understood that there are a lot of people out there who are sensitive. They have these intuitive gifts, they have these spiritual gifts, but they don't know how to use them. And in our current society, they aren't really talked about a lot. They aren't very openly accepted, and very often these people are alone. They're in their families alone, they're suffering, and they have all these visions coming in, feeling sensations, seeing energy, seeing auras. All of that stuff is happening, and they don't know how to use it, how to help people with it, that sort of stuff. And we decided, like, okay, so how can we bring something to them for them to accept those gifts and also start using them later on in life, helping others as well. So I think that's what that Cosmic Adults podcast is all about.
That's great. So we can find that on YouTube and on Spotify, right?
That's everywhere. YouTube, Spotify, Apple, whatever you're into, that's where it's at.
Okay, great, Ian. Thanks for that. So, Ian, tell us. I've been through your YouTube channel, and by the way, I have taken Ian's courses. They're great. That's why he's here, because I think he's very talented and special with astrology. And not only that, but on his channel, you also have meditations. You also have advice. Can you tell us a little bit more about what people can find on your YouTube channel?
Yeah, so a big portion of that channel is obviously astrology, yes, but my, let's say, brand of astrology, or however you want to put it, is focused on offering people as much liberation from the bondages we have, the traumas we have, the things that limit us. So all of that content on that YouTube is directed towards how can I get free emotionally, how can I get free psychologically, financially, career-wise, and in relationships as well. So everything is geared towards that, to make or help people be more free in those areas and free within themselves as well.
We will leave all his information below, so you can go straight to his YouTube channel and to his website and to his podcast as well. So Ian, welcome. Thank you for being here. So the question today, now that we are all going through these changes at all levels, but how can we get what we really want with astrology?
So this is obviously a very big question, and I've been answering that question for I think over 10 years, something very, very long time already. And maybe the traditional astrology, or very traditional astrology, is in my opinion sometimes limiting, a little bit limiting. But we can take what we can from those areas and start making new observations in our modern times, with our modern problems, and see how it fits, and see how we can use astrology actually to be used in our everyday material, practical, emotional lives in this modern time. So it's a very different situation, I would say, that we have right now. And I've done my best to take the ancient truths and to take the modern things and observations with people that I work with myself, people close to me, and I put this in let's say, modern package that we can take it to the streets, that we can take to the streets of life right now. If we feel like we're suffering, if we feel like we have a problem somewhere, and we're even on a bigger level, if we're living somebody else's life. And I think this is a big part of what we're going to talk about today, because, you know, how to get what you want in life through astrology already hints at the fact that, you know, maybe some people are doing some things that they don't really want to do. And they're doing it because they have some limiting beliefs put on by society, sometimes astrology, but, you know, something outside internally is limiting themselves, and they can't actually go out and get the thing that they're truly deeply desiring. And this is for me, it's a very, you know, close topic to my heart, because it's been something, you know, like I said, 10 years of a work, and now it's here, finally here.
It's the time.
It's the time.
It's the time. So we better prepare, and I guess astrology can be a really helpful tool here. So
Absolutely. So shall we just dig in and go deeply into this?
yeah, let's just dive.
We're talking about how to get what we want in life, and these are, you know, a couple of big subtopics here. How to get clear, what is stopping you, healing and clearing the actual blockages that are there. And to add to this last part, we can say, you know, healing and clearing, but also I want to add taking the necessary action, guys, because this is, I'm going to repeat many times. We can clear all we want. We can look at all the astrology charts. We can do all that stuff, good stuff, very amazing stuff. But in the end, if we don't take action with those things, and if we don't take the action with the information we're gathering, nothing will really change. Maybe a little bit internally, but outside of us, not so much.
Of course.
So the first part always is like, where are we now? And it's important to know, you know, what's happening. Are we suffering? Are we working on the career project that we actually want to work at? You know, for a lot of people, you know, listening, watching this video, the answer is most likely no. And the huge problem here that I see with people daily, constantly, that are coming to me on my channel, commenting, coming to me for personal consultations, is that they're actually living the life of their parents, or the life that their parents forced upon them on an early, or during the early age of their development. This is one of the biggest things I constantly see. Let's say the main cause, or the leading cause, we can say. Very often, yeah.
I can definitely relate with that.
Yes, I imagine many can. And I just want to say, because it's, you know, the parents are a huge part of our lives. They're the ones that are taking care of us during those early moments. They're the ones that are providing us, giving us love, giving us nurture. Everything is coming through them. And if these big people, these very important people, start, you know, giving us advice, giving things to us, very often they're doing it from a good place that they're, you know, thinking in their minds is coming from a good place, but they're not understanding the actual thing that is within you. And this is the important part that we're also going to be talking about. And now, when that force or energy is coming at us, you know, first and foremost, it's coming from the parents, then school, then friends, then society at large. It starts constantly compounding. You should do this. This is the right way to go. Then you get even like, sometimes you get mentors, you know, they're also forceful, but they're all still that reflection of that early childhood environment, usually. And, you know, guys, it's very often, you know, in extreme cases, or a lot of cases actually, unfortunately, is that the parent is even more forceful. Like they're almost demanding, and they're manipulating even the person into, you have to do this, otherwise I won't either love you, or total conditioning. I won't love you, or I won't give you the money, or I won't provide for you. You know, that happens a lot. And that, if that starts at a really early age, guys, it twists and turns the beliefs and grinds the gears, and it develops into fears and beliefs that we now, as adults, you know, we're, you know, waking up in our 30s, 20s, 40s, and we're like, oh my God, this is, you know, I didn't want it at all, this life. but but I'm living it, and what's happening. But it's even more important to understand, it's very often even scary for us to even say it and even look at it, because of these fears. So if I now say, this is wrong, they won't love me. If I do start doing something different, I start going into another direction. So all of these things come to play for us. And, all of that shame and guilt and all of that will lead to a lot of conflict within us internally. And that's one of the reasons people also go to, addictions, illnesses start, because they're two parts. And one part is like, I want to go here, please let me go here. And the other part, no, you can't, because you can't make money, you can't do this, you won't be loved. And they will literally, sometimes the fears are really almost like crazy. I will be stoned to death. In ancient times we were stoned to death, but now it's maybe they're publicly ridiculed, or people start to talk behind their backs. And guys, that will happen. knowing my own journey and hearing things about myself. So basically, conflict internally, we want to go one way, others want us to go, or our beliefs and ideas want us to go the other way.
Exactly. So it's a little bit of making that choice of doing what I really want or making others happy. And it might sound really simple, but I think it's more complex than we can imagine.
That's the really, if we're saying the words here, it seems extremely easy, extremely simple. Oh, so I just do that and all good. But guys, remember what I said to you before. These fears, these survival fears, in my opinion, the biggest fear of all for human beings is I won't be loved. Okay, maybe you're already clear of what I want to do, and now you're excited, I'm going to take the steps, and now you start pressing the button, and now this fear comes in, it turns, and now you freeze. And you freeze in that moment and don't take the action. Maybe don't take the course, maybe don't go on, maybe it's a relationship, you don't go on a date, etc., etc. These are really, really big important moments. Yeah. So, but let's dive into a little bit of astrology as well. Let's give the people a little bit of at least some indicators of where you can look in the chart. Mm-hmm. And why did I bring these, guys? Because a lot of the times we don't even remember. It's so suppressed, the beliefs, the ideas of parents doing this to you, grandparents. Maybe it was somebody, close relative saying. I have had people with siblings saying these things, and now they can't get on stage because of a sibling said something to them. These types of things. And this is where I think astrology is quite beautiful. It literally gives us hints and clues where to look at, and it starts to shake up our subconscious. And for example, let's take one good example of this. Ruler of the first in opposition or square to the ruler of the 4th, 10th, or 9th. So for those of you who don't know, 4th and 10th and 9th are very much connected to the parents. 4th, family. 10th, more the father, but it can be the mother. And 9th is very, 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 very often the father. And when these are in a hard aspect or opposition or square, again, the same thing can come to play. The parent forces the person, or you in this case, to live their life because the ruler of the 4th, 10th, or 9th is them, and the ruler of the 1st is you. There's a problem there, and there's a reason, obviously, why there's a problem. And this is where I think astrology is beautiful, because you go to an astrologer and you see this, okay, or you know how to read the chart yourself, and you look at, oh, okay, so I have 4th, 10th. Did my father say something to me along these lines? Or an astrologer, asks you, okay, so what was the relationship with the mother? Did your mother want you to actually do this? And what do you want to do? These actually very, very, very simple questions. Very often we don't dare to ask, because we are, afraid of those deeper things underneath that I already mentioned. So this is one of the first indications that this might be obviously going on in your life. And other things I need to mention: Saturn, Pluto, Mars in opposition square with the first house ruler. Now, the more you have these, the more of the, let's say, probability grows. If you have one of those, maybe Mars is a little bit of an easier one in this case, not always. But even if you have Mars, maybe there were fights even with the father, mother, family members on what you want to do. And you were fighting aggressively, like, I want to do this, I want to do this. And the other, the parent comes, no, you need to do this, no, you need to do that. So depends on now other, obviously, influences who won in that case. And, sometimes it can be, even maybe for a moment in time, you do the thing that the parent asks you to do. And then, you get liberated from it. Mars is a little bit of that. You start to fight with the parent as well, then it's a little bit easier to understand. But when it's Saturn or Pluto, these are suppressed things that aren't so in our faces. And this is one of the reasons I like astrology to use here. They will stir up our subconsciousness. Even if let's say a therapist or an astrologer asks you this type of question, it will start to bring back those memories that you have suppressed yourself. Important to understand.
And I think also just the fact of becoming aware of it, right? Because with astrology, I mean, sometimes we are not even sure why we feel that way or why we didn't dare to do this or that. And at least astrology, just by looking at these simple aspects, we can become aware of where the problem might be, or the wound or something like that, right? So I guess it's brilliant.
I definitely agree. And I will share a quick story from my own life here as well, because I obviously have the ruler of the first opposite Saturn, which is also the ruler of the fourth. So I have a double whammy in my chart in that sense. Wow, and when I started understanding and looking deeply into it, obviously I was learning about therapy and deeper. I would call it spiritual therapy, because I use these techniques myself, and these are deeper techniques that are, let's say, the modern therapist, the modern, let's say, mainstream psychologist usually denies these methodologies, and these are actually the ones that started working for me, because I went, when I was really young, obviously, or younger, a lot younger, I went to these modern, more mainstream people, and they obviously helped a little bit, but the problem, the core issues weren't touched, so I had to search for other people. So guys, you need to search sometimes. Right. Now, then I started looking at my chart and was like, oh my God. So this is literally what has been happening to me. I've been living somebody else's life. I've been living the life of my parents, what they wanted, or not, I can say one parent, but what my family was kind of forcing upon me. But it also liberates you, because now you're finally aware that this is happening, and now it's easier to start making decisions, better decisions, moving forward. And now some other indications: Sun and or Moon, you can sometimes have both, in opposition or square to Saturn, Pluto, especially if one of those, Saturn or Pluto, is the ruler of the 4th, 10th or 9th house. Very often I see this, unfortunately. Saturn, Pluto in the 1st, 4th, 10th or 9th also.
Wow. Okay.
Especially,
I think my mom has that. I was thinking.
Nice. The gears are turning, but it's like here we want, the more influences together we have, the more probability, again, especially if there's, again, more squares to these planets, more oppositions, again, stronger probability. Now, Libra, strong energies, ascendant sun, moon, stellium, or lunar nodes. We mean the south or north node here. What? Now, why do I say Libra? Yeah, go ahead. Did you want to say?
No, I was just like, what? Wow. Okay, go on.
So Libra, because why do I bring Libra here? Libra, really, not to hate on Libras. I have a Libra ascendant. I'm not hating on Libras at all. the reason I'm doing this for Libras or bringing Libra here is because it's really easy for the Libra native or person to live their life through somebody else, through the other. Libra is the other person. So that means when you're, let's say, a very sensitive person, very intuitive person, maybe, you know, the emotional boundaries have not yet been formed, probably, you know, you're in that household and you're taking everything in, you're like a sponge, and, you know, people say these things and this is how you're supposed to be, you know, you need to be an engineer, you need to be a doctor, you need to be this and that, and, you know, very, very strong beliefs are coming through that. What the Libra native usually does is they take it immediately. Okay, so they say this must mean how life is, without first even considering, okay, so how do I feel about this? You know, this is one of the things for Libras, is because they search so much from and through the other. This means also because Libra is society, so they also search whatever is happening in society and take that very often on as who they are. And this is a problem, guys, because very often those things aren't really the truth of you, or the truth of your being, of who you really want to be and what you really want to do. And because a Libra, what a Libra can do is they can even consult a lot of people. Like I consult you, I consult them, I consult the third astrologer, and I even go to a career advisor. And all of them give them, you know, bits and pieces, and they're like even more confused after that. So this is one of the reasons Libras have it a little bit hardest. So if you see ascendant sun, moon, or stellium, or now south or north node in Libra, you really need to check what it is that you personally truly want in life. And
how about would you say that incorporating a little bit of the opposite, the Aries energy, would you find that as a remedy or solution for a strong Libra energy on the chart?
Definitely. And Libras can very often let's say learn this from other people. You know, when they get into relationships, usually it is somebody Scorpio or somebody Mars, very often. And
the tough ones.
The tough ones. It's not easy. But what they do, they will actually help you to get into the place of directness, and you know, because Aries, Mars ruled, very direct. They're not, you know, they don't like to waste time. They like clarity, they like direction, they like people being integrity with them. So there's no wishy-washy, I don't know type of thing. And that opposite side, that a relationship can actually teach them that. Definitely. But they, you know, obviously they need to have that open mindset of and capability to learn, not to, because very often it becomes a judgment. Oh, they're direct, but you know, the Libra is the pleaser. Unfortunately, there's no way of getting around it. But you know, the Aries can teach them the directness of making clear decisions, and actually living with them. So Aries is like, this is good, I'm going to do this.
Of course. Wow, how interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
And I think the last one is a weekend sun. You know, we can add, especially if you have also difficult hard squares or oppositions to the sun. But I definitely need to mention the Libra sun here. Aquarius sun can be that if it's a good house, if it's good aspect, not so much. But why is the sun so important? Because the sun is the confidence. Now, if you, during that childhood, weren't given that confidence by the parents, which very often happens, you know, again, this is a little bit of a different topic, but, you know, parent leaving, separation, divorce, something like that happening, death sometimes happens, you know, unfortunately. Now, maybe the father isn't there. Father very often associated with the son. If the father isn't there, very often, and if the mother doesn't take a new husband, new partner, then the mother needs to play two roles.
So you said weekend sun, special attention for Libra sun, Aquarius.
We can say Libra sun, Aquarius, a little bit. It depends a little bit on the aspects. I would also look at maybe even if there's a strong sun and hard aspects, let's say opposition or square from Pluto, Saturn, hard aspect, it's very often the person's power gets taken away from them somewhere in childhood. With the conjunction, it's a little bit easier. Conjunction can happen same way, but in conjunction, there's a bigger probability that even the power can be there. But opposition and square Pluto, Sun takes more time. Because it's almost like the powerlessness. Oh, poor me, I can't do this. Oh, they will control me, they will overpower me. These stories are much, much stronger in the person's consciousness, and then they're not confident in the world to take the action that they want to take.
Okay, but everything has a remedy and a solution, so guys, don't feel doomed by these things. We're gonna jump to something more positive in a bit, but it's very, first we need to spot where the problem is. So this is
exactly
why we are going in such detail through this information.
The simple things, usually for us humans, we just disregard them immediately. Oh, it can't be so simple. Oh, it's so simple. Why do I? No, it won't work. Immediately, before giving it a go, we disregard them. It has to be complicated. It has to be, we have to do this and that and this and that. But in this case, I've seen this question do miracles, and obviously astrology associated with is even better. But if you're alone there in the world, take your time, take a moment, take a 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. You can find it during the day, during the nighttime. Take that time for yourself, and now go into a calm space. Just ask yourself, like, all the limitations, all the ideas I have about myself, if all of those are vanished and I have this freedom highway ahead of me, what would I do then? And now I know most of you like, oh, it's no. I know at first. But if you allow that moment, if you allow that tiny, let's say, bit of space for yourself, that will again grind your gears. It will start to lift that fog of the subconscious, those limitations. But very often you start to even have memories coming back of, okay, so remember now that I really enjoyed, art. And I liked to design things, and I was small, and I liked to do these things. But then, for some reason, maybe it was the father came in and said, no, you go and take this and play over there and do this instead. Now, these types of things will start to reveal a lot for you. Ask this question, guys, and let it come up. And don't be discouraged if it doesn't come up immediately. Allow a little bit of time.
And do you think that, because in order to ask this question, maybe we need to be bluntly honest with ourselves, no? Because sometimes we try to convince ourselves, when we're looking for an answer. And I think there is maybe an ingredient of honesty there that we also need in a way. What do you think?
I definitely think I agree with that, and this is one of the reasons why I said allow the answers to come, because the first answers very often can be like mind babble. It's like, I think this and I think that and blah blah blah. It can go into that space. This is why I like the giving it a little time, maybe doing it, I always like 30 days. 30 days is like the time frame you need when the habit is formed. When you do it, I think this is extremely important. Right now, all of us are bombarded basically with, quick solutions, quick fixes. You put money here, millionaire tomorrow. I've never seen that. Maybe somebody can do that. And especially if we're talking about these types of deeper topics. Remember, guys, you were, some of you were in those situations from a very young child. You were 8 years, 10 years, 18 years. You were constantly getting this you need to do, this, that same belief, constantly got stronger. It was implemented more strongly into your brain consciousness mind. And now to expect that, I'll just have a session here and there and all my problems will be solved. Or unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. It takes a little bit of time.
Well, the root of the problem seems to be obviously the self-worth, because obviously if you want to get what you want, but you lack self-worth, you will never be able to ask even what you want, So
Definitely.
How can we work with that Venus?
So the first part here always is to start, like we said, to start being aware of these things. First part, always that. Now the second part, we need to start being okay with feeling them. Once you start doing that, now it's a matter of taking it to another level, which is, we can say the Venus. It's Venus is also practical. In my mind, it also needs practical effort. So when we do these things, when we get through the feeling, and finally press that button, we need to start. And it for me, it's a lot about building it up, the Venus. And because Venus, again, guys, remember, it's what we are capable of asking for our services in the marketplace as well. That's also part of the self-worth, because again, when it's low, you're going to ask for low amounts of money, when even in your consciousness, I should be asking more, but you don't dare because maybe they won't give this to me.
True story.
Very good. Do you want to share a little bit? Or
maybe
no?
I share just a quick story, because I think it's so true. I took this class with Ian about how to make the best deals and negotiations, which is all Venus. If you guys want to go to his website, you can see there's this course, and that was 2 years ago. And back then I always have trouble pricing my services, until I started working with that Venus that I have, which is weak, which is in detriment, which is whatever you want it is. But it's also my my ruler planet, right? So you have to do the work. It's not gonna be magic.
No.
So I remember just recently I started pricing my services it's like, you know what? This is gonna be the price. And I was afraid to click the button of save changes.
Yes.
And I swear to God, after I did that, I had much more readings.
Yes.
I used to feel very guilty about the price, oh my God, I'm charging them,
This is awesome. And I think you mentioned something, that guilt or shame. And that, remember, guys, if you're in that moment, if you're starting to press that button and then guilt or shame starts to come in, when you are able to just a tiny bit be with that guilt or shame, you start to usually get memories and ideas of, okay, so usually this guilt or shame has nothing to do with me and what do I think, because these were the beliefs of the people around me. They said, oh, you shouldn't be asking money for this, you shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't be doing that, this is too expensive, we can't, all of those things from the family childhood environment usually give that guilt and shame, and that energy is with you until you start to break it. And breaking it is an everyday endeavor, because you will like you shared right now is like you took that step, but soon you will have another step. You will make it bigger. There will something more will come. Maybe the YouTube will grow. Again, you need to click that button and be okay with that guilt and shame and know, I built this up. I built this channel. These people say I'm good. These people say I'm good. Maybe I'm good. And I can ask this money.
Oh my God, yeah. Totally.
And remember, it seems so simple.
Yeah,
but that's how it works.
Yeah.
But that's how it works. We make it so big. We make it in our minds. We make it so big. It's actually not so big. And it is, and it isn't. It's
oh my God, no, really. I really encourage everyone to do this job, really. So yeah, and I'm seeing here Venus in Scorpion, Virgo, and in hard aspect. How is the Venus in Scorpion, Virgo? Why?
Oh yeah. So Venus in Scorpio, I think it's one of the hardest things for a person to incarnate with, because the self-worth is so hidden there. It's so suppressed. It can be extremely painful experiences that the person has. Let's say suppressed, because Scorpio is also a lot to do with suppression. Mm-hmm. And I've seen, unfortunately, people with this who just, there were harder aspects. Pluto was involved and stuff like that. Were harder aspects. Mm-hmm. Let's say Venus in Scorpio alone with good aspects, we can start talking again. Mm-hmm. But if Venus is in Scorpio, maybe there's nothing really there. Already an indication that some deeper things went on in that life. And I would start to look at the house. I would start to look at the aspects. Mm-hmm. Is there Pluto connection? Is there Saturn connection? Wow. Mars connection? Then, this is for more advanced, the term Egyptian. Mm-hmm. I would, Egyptian, Ptolemy, okay, maybe the Venus in Scorpio, 4th house. Again, mostly connected to the mother. Maybe there's a Pluto connection there. Maybe okay. Let's keep it at Pluto. Very often, person was controlled, by the parent. That means very often that the person even turned into the parent. The child needed to turn into the parent to take care of the mother or the family member emotionally. Mm-hmm. And that leaves all sorts of problems there. And very often, even to add to that, very often that person's parent struggled with the self-worth themselves internally. So all of that meanness, that pain that is inside of her or him, sometimes father, was directed at the person. So it can take the form of shame. Shame with Pluto is very, very, very often the case. So the person was shamed, Venus very often about their weight, about their the way they look. Mm. And, before you know it, that person is really in a difficult space. It doesn't have to be this extreme. Sometimes it's, can be, people just, saying some mean things during when the person is growing up. But if you say those mean things repeatedly and constantly, again, the worth isn't being built up. The job of the parents with the child is actually to build them up, to help them to see where the child is curious about, what it is curious about, to support that, to say, oh, so you can do this. What else can you do? Let me guide you a little bit. Do you want this course? This is the job of the parent, not to say no, you do. It doesn't work that way. Of course. Venus in Virgo also quite difficult. Very, very critical. Usually of themselves, extremely critical of themselves. Nothing is never good enough. But again, that the person's parents were very, very extremely critical of them during childhood. And even to add more to that, it's nothing was never good enough. Person has to be perfect. Even to get a little tiny bit of attention. Where I'm not even talking about love, I'm talking about attention, a tiny bit of attention.
Perfection.
Very difficult. Total perfectionism.
So perfection comes from insecurity, right? So
yes, I'll explain it a little bit. So the thought process behind that is, if I'm not perfect during childhood, I get either scolded, criticized. So I have this tremendous amount of fear to be perfect. Otherwise, they come at me again. So I have to iron out every detail, every dot, everything needs to be perfect. So I get a tiny little bit of love, or you can say air to breathe, because that's a heavy. Venus in Virgo can be total overworkers.
So set some boundaries, no? I think
definitely.
Set some boundaries, and maybe take the positive energy of Virgo.
Put healthy foods into my body. Focus on that. Again, not go too crazy with it, but again, natural foods. Venus is a lot to do with food, and the body is, if we treat our body well, we start to build more love as well. So if you put good foods into ourselves, that starts to build as well. I would definitely do that. And like you said, focus on the positive side of Virgo is and Venus in Virgo is detailed. Focus on the details. Yes, make the details beautiful. But again, notice when it gets too much, because when it starts to get too much, that same kind of, the how do I start calling the tension and the squeezing of that feeling and the fear starts to come in. Whenever that starts to come in again, sink into it, and maybe you start to understand, okay, I've made the details pretty, it's pretty awesome already. Now, if we want to even go with the Venus in Virgo even further, it's a lot to do with service, but it's not only about being, so maybe you start helping women, for example. Venus in Virgo, helping women, serving women in some way. Maybe it's their health, maybe it's their looks, maybe some looks. No, I'm serious. If I say looks, they go crazy a little bit with it. But
yeah, it could be body, or even body, mental health or something like that. Right?
Totally, mental health. I think I really like. Now, I can't stress this enough. But now that we know what we know, maybe it's astrology has given us the indications. We have the information. Action. It's so important. It's underrated, I would say. Especially, it's a little bit underrated, like the spiritual and everybody likes to learn and take courses which is great.
Take notes,
Take notes. Awesome. Very, very amazing, guys. But those notes will do nothing for you in the end if you don't take the action. Take those notes and put them into practice. The simple exercise I also gave, letting your mind or yourself stopping you, sink into the sensation, sink into the feeling, and then look at it from a more healthier, clear headspace.
Yeah, it's like tuning with that emotion or feeling for a few minutes, I guess. Like we always, particularly personally, I forget that all the time. It's so true. We want to block it, so we want to get distracted with the next WhatsApp message, with the next coffee, whatever, and we suppress those where the answer could be, right?
Exactly.
So that's really powerful. Thanks for that. Okay.
Again, and I want to just give your audiences attention to the fact that it's very simple, but very few people decide to do it. And when these people who decide to do it, they are capable of now taking that action. So look at those moments, guys. And use those astrological placements, obviously, as well, that we talked about. See if you have Venus in Virgo, see if you have Venus in Scorpio, hard aspects to them, all the other stuff we talked about. And the last part, I have personally developed a process, and I'm going to be releasing it, but I will start to release it. This is a process that is actually specifically designed for those squeezing moments that stop us, and I call it the freedom process. If possible, guys, follow me on social media, stay tuned.
Yeah, we will of course be putting all the information in the video description below, so you can find Ian easily. So Ian, tell us, do you have any courses coming soon, or any like webinars or something? What's up with you?
I have plenty coming. Books. I have one book coming out, and some courses also rolling out this year. I will give it this year, but I'm also going to be launching a membership program, which is to do with this specific topic. I will take people into the container. I will look at where they are, what is blocking them, and how we remove that and start moving in the direction.
Yeah, is there anything you can tell us about this upcoming Venus and Uranus encounter?
So we have an interesting conjunction here with Uranus and Venus, obviously coming up. It's a new cycle beginning, and it's happening in the sign of Taurus, which is again Venus, ruled sign. So a lot about, if we're talking a lot about in, let's say, the global sense, the more societal sense, I do see a lot of shocks to the financial system still, a lot of up and down, quite huge movements, especially during the conjunction. And, because it's happening still in Taurus. The new cycle with Uranus and Venus is happening and in Venus, everything is about money and goods. Sorry, it's not only about money. But it's all about these material goods, the food, guys. Where remember in Europe, the things are not so amazing right now,
Right.
and it does to me also suggest shocks in the kind of food, how we eat the food, how we supply the food, how we preserve resources, how we preserve money, how we preserve the goods, the food, those things that are growing outside. I do see shocks here. I do see huge amounts of innovation happening as well. Because Uranus will reveal the problems for us in the financial system, the food system, the beauty industry also. It will also, but let's say the dark side of Uranus is it will shock us and it will show us the problems and the truth of the situation and what is going on. That will be uncomfortable. But let's say that the longer term positive side, if we want to say it, it will also liberate us. It will give us the freedom to innovate, to bring in the truth of what we actually want. Unfortunately, it will be uncomfortable.
Like everything Uranus, right? But it can be also enlightening, right? Let's hope for the best. Okay.
Yeah.
So Ian, thank you so much for being here and for sharing all of this information with us and also your wisdom. Thanks so much for being here. And guys, you will find all about Ian below. And hopefully we'll see you soon in our channels. Thank you so much, Ian.
Glad to be here. Almost every time you ask me to be here, I will be here because I love doing this anyway. And let's keep talking.
Thank you, Ian. Okay, guys, so thank you for being here. Gracias por estar con nosotros y acompañarnos en este episodio. Nos vemos en el siguiente Juego Cósmico.
Muchas gracias.
Yay! Love it.
We are young,